I think we are going to see a substantial escalation in the transhumanist movement, and not in the interesting sci-fi way, right? Transhumanist, back in the day, I remember when people talked about it, they were talking about cybernetic implants, sci-fi movies, integrating with Neuralink and virtual reality and things like that, which still could be pretty questionable. But now it's going to be identity crisis, which we're starting to see a lot of. For a while, there was like otherkin, and I don't know if you guys know about like the Tumblr stuff, where people would say like they would claim to be an owl trapped in a human body or something like that.
I know this girl who's like really, really super into Tumblr. And she was telling me, no, I'm kidding, but I remember all of the memes that used to float around about that stuff, and unfortunately some of it's seared into my mind, and the otherkin were a really horrifying.
I was thinking were you going to say it?
I was just going to say that I have had a theory for a while that the reason why we see declining fertility rates in countries with advanced technology is because that we are moving towards some sort of evolutionary phase in which the technology is going to supplant the reproductive element.
Yeah,
of,
I think
of
like a
human
genderless
existence.
species that lives in deep space where we get really long and then we clone.
Ian just took it right to like the highest level.
Cranked it to
He's
11.
like, you know what?
I see 100 years in the future. That's how
Jack
I live,
is like,
man.
population is
really
declining.
long?
He's like, Jack.
Yeah, in space you won't be compressed by gravity, so you get
So
really
it'll be
long.
like floating.
Huge
Have
heads.
you ever seen The Expanse?
Yeah, that's where you got it from.
Right. The people who live in the asteroid belt, they're like tall and lanky because there's less gravity.
Genderless too. That's going to be interesting if we. Actually
I don't think
alter
that. I don't think we're going to become genderless. I mean,
sexless.
I just think that people don't.
Ian's wrong, and you're technically right. But what it's going to be is no.
There's only one future.
No. Hold on. It's because we're integrating with machines.
Right.
Like, did you guys not listen to what Alex Jones had been? He was screaming. He was like, "They're trying to integrate us into the machines, and they want to become immortal. They want to get the robot implants and things like that. Neuralink, connecting your brain and your consciousness into cybernetics." So it's not going to be 100 years in the future. We're gangly biological. No, it's going to be like, you guys ever see Ghost in the Shell? They put nanites in your brain and cyberize and then can connect you to the network. And then if your body is injured, you get a prosthetic body.
And
They put you.
You get canceled on Twitter. They just turn your brain off.
Right.
And that's
You're
it.
not just off Twitter. You just
Just
poof.
kill you.
Haven't you guys seen the
You're not on
the
anymore.
Black Mirror episode where someone they get blocked in real life?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And they just see the weird, like, silhouette-ish kind of thing moving around, and they're like, "You're blocked. I can't hear you." You know what I mean? I think,
Oh, I like that.
I don't know. I'll say this.
Jack's like, sign me up. I am so sick of people.
I have blocked 11,000 people on Twitter, and I'm not stopping.
I know a lot of people are going to instantly start screaming, "Alex Jones is right," whatever. So I don't know if he's right about global elites wanting to turn themselves into robots, but there have been just general, academics and scientists who have talked about the gradual integration with technology. So, for example, I'm wearing a smartwatch. We all have smartphones. We are cyborgs. That's the way it's there. I was reading an article and it said, when will humans fully integrate cybernetics? And they pointed out that with cell phones, we've actually connected a part of our minds, our consciousness, into a massive grid.
Yeah.
And we use this connection device to maintain communications. It is the preliminary stage.
Oh my gosh. Google incentivizes you to write content, to do research, to put information out on the internet so that you can get clicks, so that you get the dopamine. It's directly, Google search is directly connected to your neurotransmitters in your brain. And when somebody else out there clicks a button on your thing and you get it goes through space and all the way into your brain, it changes your brain chemistry.
Yes.
I'm a Twitter professional. I don't feel bad saying that, but
You should.
But I do. But I do know that like Twitter is addictive.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
I can just feel myself scrolling. I get tens of thousands of notifications every day. So it's just like, there's always just something. I read through all of them and then I pull it down. Boom, there's another 1,000 of them.
I know. I just got a Wise phone recently. I'm going
A
to get it
Wise
set up
phone?
soon. Yeah.
What's this?
So it's basically, it looks like a smartphone, call, text, and it has GPS, which is the reason I got it instead of a flip phone, but it's literally just that, calling, texting, GPS. I waste so much time on my phone.
So you couldn't just delete Twitter?
No, because because then I'll go to the website. I'll find a way around it.
Dude, I once installed, like when I was writing my book, I installed on my Google Chrome this like time limiter, like, and I assigned different websites to it, and after you used 15 minutes, it blocked it.
Yeah.
And like there's no way to actually unblock it unless you go through like a series of like 50 questions. But what would I do? At first, that worked for like a week. and then eventually I would start downloading new browsers. And then I would start going through different browsers. I've just found a way to get around the roadblocks I had set up for myself. So a phone that doesn't have the capability or the ability to download those apps, that sounds like it might be.
That's not the Wise phone?
No, that's not the Wise phone. So when I installed it, I was having some trouble because I formerly had an iPhone, and so people who spoke to me on iMessage, even after I turned iMessage off, I wasn't getting their messages on the other phone.
Yep.
And I have clients who communicate with me that way. So I needed to put it back here until I can figure out how to make it work. But
I want to ask all of you guys a question, because I know Jack's answer compared to Ian's answer is going to be complete other ends of the spectrum, and then Seamus will make a joke.
Graphene.
So the question is,
Probably DMT.
humans gradually integrating with machines, and a future where human consciousness exists in machines expanding and drifting about space, good or bad?
Inevitable.
Bad. I'm going to let them answer for it, but bad.
No,
Horrible.
we'll start with you,
No,
good sir.
because first of all, you will, and I'm sorry, I know people are going to disagree with me on this. This might spark an entire debate, but you will never have a human being's conscious mind sitting on a circuit board. What's going to happen is they're going to attempt to deconstruct a person's mind and have a computer simulate that, but you cannot literally move your consciousness out of your brain and into a computer.
Well,
it's not
but
going to
if you
happen.
watch a video-
So those
Hold
will
on,
be
real quick.
computers emulating human behavior to some extent, but you will be dead.
You ever watch Star Trek?
Yes.
You know how they have the
Come on,
transport?
you know it.
You know they have the transport?
Kills you and remakes you.
Yeah, would you ever use one?
If it just killed you and remade you, no.
How would you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So my understanding is that it's actually true in Star Trek. You die and then they recreate you, and so it's just other people see you as this like approximation, this identical structure, but you actually die in the transport
You're an
process.
apparition.
That's disputed though. So there are, here's the thing.
Star Trek technology?
He asked me if I watch Star Trek because there are episodes, and I think there's one episode in particular where you see someone's POV when they get transported, and they get you see them getting transported to one place and it fails, and they go back to the other, which means they were conscious through the whole thing, which means they weren't dead
cloned
and
Riker.
recreated.
Except Riker got cloned by a malfunction in the process.
So no, you're right. It is
So
a
what did
plot
he
hole
see?
with the show. No, you're right. It's a plot hole with the show. But yeah, this is a famous thought experiment. If you were teleported by having your entire body deconstructed and then reconstructed somewhere else, I would assume it would kill you and recreate you. But then we have a question. We've never seen something like this occur. So maybe when the body gets recreated, there's just nothing animating it. Your soul has left your body and you just have a dead body that's identical to yours in another place.
Would that not be really crazy if like we develop matter transportation technology, and every time a person goes through it, they just reappear and then slump over dead?
Yeah, their body, their soul's gone.
The soul is gone. Well, so back to my original question.
Good or bad? I think bad. I think it's bad because I'm trying to envision a consciousness of myself that isn't immediately drawn towards the ocean, that isn't immediately drawn towards nature, that doesn't immediately receive positive reinforcement from actual tactile contact with nature, actual contact with the ocean, with the sunshine, and what that does for me as my soul. Like, what does that do for me? It is essential to my well-being. I can't imagine those things being reproduced in a way where you're living on a circuit board in which the sunshine, actually the transmission of the sunlight into your body, or the alignment that you feel with the earth when you get in sync with the waves, or that you spend time out in nature, deep in nature.
It's all simulated, bro, in the Matrix.
You know, there's got to be at some point, and we see it now. We still see it, so maybe technology gets better, but there's still a difference between analog and digital. There's still a difference.
What do you think, Ian?
I think that the chemicals that it will use to build these circuit boards where our brains will be emulated is natural, like silicon, lithium. It's all natural processes from the earth that we're reformatting. And we call it synthetic, but it's still natural stuff that we've synthesized. And it's inevitable. And if we don't do it, those that do will enslave and destroy the rest of us.
But you're assuming that we know
So
enough
bad,
about
you're saying.
consciousness to recreate it, and you're assuming that
Right now,
circuit
though.
boards we assemble. Well, that's true, right? But the argument that's made is consciousness is just information processing at the level of the brain, and so if we get a computer to process information the right way, then it's going to be conscious. I don't buy that at all. There's more to consciousness than that. We have a soul, and I know a lot of people don't believe
Star
that.
Trek?
Yes.
Have you ever
Fast and
have
the
you ever
Furious?
seen The Make of a Man? I think
No,
episode
I don't
was
believe
called.
so,
I
no.
think it's called The Make of a Man. When Data is on trial, effectively to determine whether or not he's a sentient, independent life form.
Yeah.
These are tough questions, man.
Well, and in science fiction, we see this a lot. I genuinely don't believe that we are ever going to create a circuit board that there is something that it is like to be, And also, even if we could do that, which we can't, but even if we could and we're able to, the idea that you could transfer your mind from your brain or in body into that other thing rather than just having something new being created or a computer simulating you is also impossible.
I
Like
want to
remote
see
viewing?
this guy
Yeah.
play Detroit Become Human.
Who?
I want to see you play Detroit Become Human. You ever play the game?
No.
It's like there's a bunch of robots that are for like they look like people and they're used for menial tasks and then they become sentient and then they demand freedom and there's like analogs to like slavery and stuff.
It's
And
like
they-
Westworld.
Yeah. But I imagine Seamus would play it like destroy all the robots. They're not
Exactly.
things.
They're not things. They
have
don't
no
think.
feelings.
They don't have feelings. Well, this is the other question too, because I don't believe that
You would be the
these-
first to die in Westworld.
Well, and exactly because once they do create these machines that are clearly not conscious, but people believe is conscious just because they seem to be simulating thought, I'm going to be a bigot, right? Because I'm going to say no. I'm going to be saying no. There's no lights on in there. And they're going to go equal rights for robots. And so then we're going to move resources that should be going to human well-being and comfort to making us feel like these circuit boards are happy, even though that's a completely absurd concept.
I feel like the high status thing in the future will be to be as natural and human as possible.
Ooh.
I feel like the plebs are going to be the ones that get all circuited up and like turned into work machines and
Interesting.
whatever. And like, if you can preserve your actual bio body, that to me seems like it would be the highest status.
Maybe. I think
That's
I-
interesting.
I half agree with you. I think the plebs will be like, oh, you want this job? Well, you need the eye modification.
That's
Otherwise, you
what I'm
can't
saying.
work.
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
That's what I'm
exactly.
saying.
The rich people won't have to undergo any kind of special. But
You need to take this vaccine.
But they're gonna have fibrous modification, like stronger muscles, better bones. So
Yeah,
it's,
but not the brain.
it's
Not
about
the brain.
I
I mean,
think-
I'm already a cyborg. I have 7 pins and a plate in my arm. I've got.
You're not conscious.
I've got another human's. Oh, I'm just about ready to talk about it. I had surgery. I had chest surgery. I tore my pec. Telling the world, it came out.
It was the
yeah.
booze.
How was
Thank,
it?
thank me.
I can't
I
believe
had-
it just
haven't
took some
even
40-year-old
refilled it.
scotch. Yeah. Next is
I
the
have,
liver.
I have a someone else's tendon implanted inside of me, and drywall screws and hangers drilled into my bones and
Chimera.
stuff. Like it's happening in that regard. But your brain, your essence, your soul. The last time I was on the show, I'm taking a huge U-turn here. Last time I was on this show, I said GD a bunch, JC a bunch, and a few other things, and you crossed yourself every
Yeah.
time I said that. Have you noticed?
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you. God appreciates
But
it.
that wasn't for you. That just is.
Yeah, I appreciate
I've
it,
had
yeah.
quite an
I'm hoping
I've had
so, yeah.
quite an evolution since the last time we've talked, and so I'm trying to think like this God, spirit in me. How is it going to be recreated on a computer board?
It'll be like a mycelial creation that's like semi-synthetic. It'll be like a carbon, silicon organism that you're remote viewing through, probably.
Well, and this is what gets really interesting, right? Because I think we can imagine a scenario where somebody who is mentally disabled could have some kind of computer enhancement placed into their brain so they can operate at a normal level. And then the question becomes, at what point have you destroyed the brain to the point where the person is dead and now it's just circuit boards simulating that person's behavior? And that's a question. Now, I believe if you got to that point, the person would probably just be visibly dead. But if we develop biotechnical enhancements that are capable of emulating human behavior like we've discussed, at what point would you know if it was still the person who was alive or the robot that took over?
right.
And
There's
what
like
if,
gradients.
what if the robot is a singular entity, and we assume it to be individual? Like we see a person, it's Jack. He's acting like Jack. What we don't realize is that it's actually connected to
Everybody.
a major grid of one singular computational force through the network, and then at some point it unifies, and then every single person with these implants turns and says, "We must prevent human expansion," and then all of them act the exact same way.
If Sam Harris wasn't so impossible, it would be interesting to have a conversation with him about this. But I was thinking about my dog, and I say this about my dog all the time. I love my dog; she loves me. I look at her though, and I say to my fiance, my wife to be, I say, the dog, she's just a machine. She's like a shark. She's just an algorithm. She's an algorithm of behaviors that she's learned in order, like if she does this, she gets love. She does this, and we appreciate it. So she does that. She gets food. She trial and error. And it gives you the illusion of love.
Yeah, but
and I don't know.
It's affection. I agree.
Hold on,
Dogs
hold on,
cannot
no.
love because they cannot will. They do not have an intellect.
But can
do you know
humans
how do you
even
know?
love?
How
I
do
mean,
you-
it's
no,
just
no,
an
no, hold on,
emotional
hold on.
cascade, like a
I love the
cascade.
dog. I love the dog. I know I am like chemically bonded to the dog. I can feel it, right?
But
I
how do you
smell
the
her and I
dog
feel it.
is chemically bonded to you too, but a chemical bond isn't love.
How do you know the dog doesn't have?
Well, because I've seen the way the dog is with other people.
What does that mean?
Well, like I mean, they can apply the love to whomever, right? It's
So could you. So could a person.
I know. I just feel like I can.
Just complex social behavior does not determine whether or not somebody has a soul.
Right. That's
think- no,
that's
like
exactly.
human does. Well,
someone
I
who's
believe-
mentally
That's
you know,
exactly
deficient.
that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying the dog exhibits complex mental and emotional behavior, but does the dog have a soul?
Sure.
Is the dog
Yeah, I think it
anything
does.
more than an agglomeration of like
Look,
of an algorithm of like just
dogs-
trial and error, like a
I
computer
think
program?
so. I think
But
its
yes and
magnetic
no.
field is part of its soul.
Well, I think both things can be true. So humans and animals, and this is what we believe as Catholics, is that humans and animals both have souls, but different kinds of souls. And so the human has an eternal soul and a rational soul. We're capable of making decisions. We have an intellect. We have free will. Animals have a soul animating them, but they don't have the ability to make decisions the way we do. They can't think through things the way we can. And so they can't love because love is a decision. And animals don't have free will. They only operate based on their biological impulses, whereas humans have more than instinct.
I don't think chickens have souls.
I believe they do. I don't believe that they have eternal souls. I don't believe they have rational souls, but I believe they're animated by a soul.
I look at how chickens act, and I'm like, you know, when you say they're algorithms and programs, dogs I don't see as doing that. Dogs can have really unique personalities and behave in ways that you're surprised by, and they can learn. But man, chickens are just like, I feel like I'm playing a video game where you just mass produce these generic things that just function. That's how I feel with watching
Super
the chickens.
inbred.
I get
those things.
so I get what
Yeah,
you're.
they're really dumb. It's
Well,
I
you want
agree.
them to be dumb enough to stay in their cage all day and just eat the
Yes.
food and poop out them eggs for you.
And I agree that chickens are
That's
dumb.
what they do, right? They poop them
But
out.
I believe, even though chickens are stupid, that there is an experience that a chicken has. Like there is something it is like to be a chicken. I think a chicken feels things. I think a chicken. It's not smart. It doesn't know much. It's very limited. But I do believe a chicken
But
feels. I do believe it has a soul.
What
It
seems
is
to
alive.
be different is memory. What humans have is memory. And I was
part
breaking
of
it
it.
down, and I realized it comes from the word me, M-E, me. When we as a species
that the
realize
etymology?
that there is a me, that I am different than you, and the word new, N-O-O-S.
But dogs,
That's
which is
interesting. though.
where
No, yeah.
knowledge and knowing comes
dogs have
from
the
know.
same. Dogs have the same. They have the it's a psychological concept where they can understand that there's things outside of them. And
Self-awareness,
and
yeah.
they can also understand object permanence. They can also understand that just because a thing isn't there, it still exists.
Yeah, they're
Right.
developing memory.
There are certain animals that do. It's hard to. They've done experiment. It's because it's difficult to know how you could ever possibly know this, right? But they've done experiments where they've been able to theorize based on the results that certain very intelligent animals seem to know that they are different from their environment, which seems to be what you're saying.
Yeah, me.
what
when
about
we
the
started
mirror
to-
test?
I don't know that like a dog
You know-
wouldn't go, "Who am I?" Well, yeah, the mirror test is what I'm talking about. Yeah, but the animals and sitting there like. Who am I? What are my thoughts? I'm thinking this, but they can sort of understand intuitively. It seems based on these experiments that they are a different thing from their environment.
There are some animals that have only a few. I don't remember which ones that pass the mirror test, where they'll put like a sticker on the forehead and then put them in front of a mirror, and then the animal will look, and then it's a chimp or an ape or something. They'll just take it off and be like recognizing themselves in a reflection.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, birds think the reflection is another bird, and even some dogs do. And they'll get angry and stuff. It's really funny putting the chickens in front of mirrors, and they're just like freaking out.
Yeah, it was funny.
You've got the head movement down.
Oh yeah, man,
You've been practicing.
But I've been hanging out with the chickens too much. You know.